Welcome back to Hannity & Combs. Now continue with the author of the Politically Incorrect Guide to Global Warming and Environmentalism, Chris Horner, the president of the Global Warming Action Alliance, John Cleveland, the media director for the National Resources Defense Council, John Cartman. I'm just curious, Chris Horner, why is it seems most of the people, or many of the people who want to speak out against global warming or denounce Al Gore or denounce this movement are people who actually get money from big business or get oil money or somehow funded by people who have a vested interest financially in this not being an issue? Why is that?
I guess you're going to have to figure out, name names or give me specifics, because you know, as we put it on in the show, Enron started this in the United States, Duke Energy, GE, BP, DuPont had picked it up. Every responsible company has devised a scheme to make money short-term by picking our pockets. If you go to CEI.org, you will see that. But when they're assuming you won't go all the way to what Al Gore calls a World War II style commitment, which was not a battle.
Have you ever taken oil money? Have any of the organizations you work for taken oil money?
I'm sure my organizations have received oil money, just like, guess what? BP gives madly to these groups. The big oil companies are pushing carbon taxes and things. It's not that you want to demonize this. Remember, let's just stick to what's being called for.
I'm just trying to find out what's the real agenda here, too, because clearly there's an agenda.
Called for Alan, real briefly, World War II style commitments, what was on the table, not swapping out light bulbs. The boys who scaled the crag at Ponca Hawk did not do so wielding low energy light bulbs, and the Battle of the Bulge wasn't about imposing double
with my question, John Cleveland.
World War II style commitment.
John Cleveland, there clearly is an agenda here by people who either want to denounce Democrats, denounce Gore, or get big oil money because they are paid to say the things that they say about reducing the importance of the issue of global warming.
You know, you're absolutely right. Mr. Horner is he's a hired gun. He's the man who was paid. As a matter of fact, ExxonMobil dropped CEI. His job is to discredit global warming.
You just defeated your argument.
He's paid to do that.
I'm still here.
He's paid to do that.
Here.
Are you paid to do that, Mr. Horner? Do you get money to say the things you're saying?
Of course he's paid to do it.
No, of course not.
You say no.
I'm an average guy. I work for a living. I have a
I think you're putting your little average by saying, look, we're supported by big oil, except they left us 2 years ago. Which time are you lying? I'm still here, and yet we're not receiving funding. Doesn't that sort of undercut your, I guess, for lack of a better term, argument?
How about Ford and some of the other companies? Look, the issue is this. It's all about people. Profits before people.
All right, guys, let me step in. Let me go back to John Cartman, who's sitting here.
You must be so proud of picking up Enron's lobbying agenda.
By the way, I love your book, Chris. Yes. I think it is the definitive book on exposing this hypocrisy. John, let me go back to you. Al Gore wants everyone to take a 7-point pledge, and we heard the attack by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. against me, to take personal action to solve the climate crisis by reducing my own CO2 pollution as much as I can. Now, I had an exchange on this very program with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Let's roll the tape. Do you use a private jet?
You know what? I'm not going to dignify that question because
you do. And that's the point. You're going to lecture us about a car, and you're traveling around the world in a private jet. Well, I find that hypocritical. Hypocrisy is an issue. Now, Al Gore still travels around in private jets, and yet in his movie An Inconvenient Truth, he puts up signs, walk, ride bicycles, take light rail.
I have no idea how either one of these guys travel. I can tell you, I got here on the subway tonight, and I can tell you that I do think it's a mistake to turn this into a polemical conversation where we're blaming corporations, blaming individuals at a time when we think we've really turned the corner, and to start thinking about sensible steps. Now, there are little steps on
but 1 hour but here's the deal. 1 hour in a Gulfstream is about the equivalent of 1 year's car use for the very people, us, that they're lecturing us to walk, use light rail, and ride our bicycles. Can't they give up their jets? That's all I'm asking. If they're going to lead by example. Why can't you demand that and put aside your love of Democrats and say they're being hypocrites?
Well, it's not a love of Democrats or a love of Republicans. It's a recognition that this isn't about finger-pointing either way. And I know that it's
they're telling you to ride a bike.
Lecturing you. I think there's a chance here for folks to start at home, and where the real action is going to happen is when Congress comes back later this month, the House of Representatives takes up an energy bill where they're going to be dealing with fuel economy, with global warming emissions, and all sorts of steps that are going to take that to the next level.
Chris, one of the things that, if you look at the actual jet use, how many of these artists have been traveling all around the globe in their private jets with their bands and their equipment and their staff? you know, maybe if they start carrying their drums on their bicycles, I'll take what they have to say a little more seriously.
We can go back to the good old days of bongos. Look, if this were a crisis, as they said, one of the first things to go, if not the first thing to go, would be this frivolous extravagance, which was not, it was about pointing fingers. It was about saying our day-to-day energy use is illegitimate. Meanwhile, as the Arctic Monkeys, never heard of them, but now I'm their biggest fan, said that, who am I, a 21-year-old who bangs drums, who uses the equivalent of energy use to fuel 10 houses, flying around the world on jets to lecture people about energy use killing the planet.
Let me ask one side note question to John Cleveland here. John, Yusuf Islam, who used to be Cat Stevens, sang Peace Train at one of these concerts. This is the same guy, remember when the fatwa came out against Salman Rushdie, who wrote the Satanic Verses, who said, Salman Rushdie, he said, indeed any writer who abuses the Prophet, or indeed any prophet under Islamic law, the sentence for that is actually death. Does Al Gore have any obligation not to associate somebody with those extremist views?
Well, that sounds a little bit convoluted to me. All I know is that we've got a serious problem on our hands. Most of the people in the world agree, and we need to find solutions and stop picking on people's way of flying around.
As long as you're a liberal and say you're green, that you can get away with any crime, that you can say anything, that you can live a hypocritical lifestyle, as long as you say the right thing.
What crime?
Well, then again, neoconservatives can say anything they want and get away with it.
I'm convinced that if I saw Al Gore robbing a bank with an arm, or do an armed robbery, you liberals would say, well, at least he supports the environment.
Yes, but he would do it in a very green way.
No, he got away on a bicycle.
Thank you guys very much. Coming up, does a liberal blogger really want to kill Rush Limbaugh?